And there was indication that probably Nairobi was not really aware of what had happened, yet there was a public event at the KICC, and probably State House was not aware. Then you see days later, something happening in the cover of darkness, still in the same country, within the city, and two statements from the ministry, both not really condemning that kind of action. And the same question I asked Bonapogisio, could there really be some justification for Nairobi to get involved in this kind of manner in such a conflict?
Maybe Kenya getting involved in issues that are affecting nations around Kenya.
In this manner?
Let's talk about first the involvement. The involvement per se is not something that is happening for the first time, just like our colleague here has indicated, Honorable Polisha. Kenya has been the peace arbiter in the region, and Kenya being a very stable democracy, in spite of any issues that anybody would raise, it has consistently hosted refugees from across different nations. If you look at the camp in Darfur, refugee camp, if you look at Kakuma, even some settlements that have been shut, and even when you remember, we had a whole department, full-fledged department on refugees. Kenya has not only taken the brunt of conflicts around the nation, it has also actively involved itself in mediation processes. And I think when you have warring factors and warring parties, many times every issue becomes very sensitive. Even a small action of picking a pen, appearing to write something, or whispering something to one of the parties can appear as though you are siding with one party. I think the assurance that Kenya needs to have is to ensure that even the complaining parties are also listened to, and that Kenya retains a neutrality. Because if you don't do that, you look at the number of people who are displaced within Sudan, immediately they are displaced, by the way, they go to the neighboring countries. And you know, with the Refugee Convention, the 1951 Refugee Convention, Kenya is a state that is bound to ensure that anybody running for asylum within its territory cannot be referred back into a territory where there is risk of that person losing their lives. So that means when there is conflict in one nation, say like if it's in Southern Sudan, or if it's Sudan, or if it's DRC, the immediate impact of what you're seeing on the newspaper or on media, people being displaced, is that you will eventually find other people knocking at the doors of Kenya, which puts a big strain on the services that are being rendered by the government. So there is an ultimate responsibility of countries around a warring country to give a form of stability, to do all they can to ensure that there is understanding between the parties that are not having an understanding between one another. But maybe then the signal that an ambassador is recalled, and I agree it's not a very good thing when the nation recalls an ambassador, is to find out what are the causative factors that have led to those very quick conclusions, and those very bringing more instability. Because if Sudan is getting unstable, then it shouldn't be a destabilizing factor on the relationships around. It's more assuring when the relationship with other nations around Sudan then become an inspiration and a hope
even
to the country which is fighting.
Even
but I think it's the timing. It's the timing of maybe that process that could have triggered some issues because of where RSF is right now.
What about the words? Because they're talking about forming a parallel government in Nairobi, alternative government. There's already a government in Sudan,
yes,
which is part of the conflict as well.
Personally, I would think that if one of the warring factors or one of those who are in active conflict go to a territory or go to a neighboring state and purport to form another government, I would shy away from an action that indicates that they are forming a government unless, of course, if all the actors are on the table and then they are forming something that is generally acceptable, if you can say it is 70% acceptable to the Sudanese people, or you look at the rating of how acceptable is that action. Does it drive more conflict or does it bring more peace? So I would say it's the factors that are surrounding the conflict that must be looked at. The position where RSF is right now, if it's one of the big factors, and it is one of the big factors that are having a